in developing a software. So process model is, it involves a step-by-step process, and we can develop the software without any confusion, and we need a team for that. So the process, first thing is software process model. So it is a structured set of activities required to develop a software system. So it is structured, it is well defined, so that we can know how it is designed. Everything is predefined for us. With the help of that, we can develop a software. And it involves some basic steps like specification, design, validation, evaluation. So specification, what are the needs to develop a software? The requirements, resources, all that comes under specification. Design, the software should be designed in a way so that we can develop it. So that comes under design. Validation. Validation is nothing but writing programs for that, codings, everything comes under the validation process. And evaluation. Evaluation is like beginning it. So beginning it is the process of implementation and maintenance, all that comes under your validation process. So in other words, a software process model is an abstract representation of a process. Abstract, as we all know that abstract is a brief view about the process. So it is just a brief representation of any process which is going to be taken place while developing a software. So here we have a example, I think, with which we can know how the communication between a customer and a user, manager goes on. So first, a customer has some requirements. Like in order to develop software, they will have something in the mind. Suppose if you're going to get a new phone, you'll think of what model you want. So we have that in mind, and we'll go and ask the manager for some model. But the manager assumes it in a different way. So he thinks this is the model which the customer needs. It requires 3 types. So he'll think this is the model which the customer needs, and he'll tell the project leader to develop based on that. The project leader will have his own mentality, his own imagination, and he'll create it like this, in this way. But when it goes to a programmer or system analyst, what he does is he'll design it in his own method. So it involves 2 other extra resources in that. When it comes to a programmer, we all know that writing a program, exact program for something is very difficult. And if we write, it should get executed. So because of that problem, he has developed his own program, and it goes in this way, and the swing line thing is placed down. So the next step goes to the business consultant. Actually, you can see it's a sofa-like thing. So business consultant, he'll be in this high level of mind. So what he does is he thinks it in a highly executive way, and he designs in that way. He shows the customer in that way. And then when the project has to be documented before you are going to give it to the customer. So at that time, documentation time, it fails to get documented. So it is shown by the empty thing. Even the tree is not visible for us here. So then when a software is developed, we have to install it in a system, right? So installation is not complete. It just ends here. After that, the installation fails, and this is shown in this tab. So the customers will normally, after installing the software, we start using it. For example, a phone, we get a SIM and we start using it. So we have some schemes like plans of what monthly basis we have some plans, right? So if that plan fails, there will be a fluctuation in the bill amount of the user. So this is shown by this roller coaster. And finally, when we need some support for a software, right? So the software is supported in a very least way. In fact, we can say it is not at all supported. So this is shown in this process. And finally, as I already said, the user has his own, the customer has his own imagination for the material he requires. So the customer actually wanted it as a tire, but the manager has made a wrong imagination, and it has ended up like this, and the whole system has collapsed. So this leads to a conclusion of the need for process model. So the first need is to form a common understanding between the manager as well as the customer. So if there is proper understanding, we can know what the customer actually needs it. So because of lack of understanding, it led to a mishap in that example. So to find inconsistencies, redundancies, and omissions. Inconsistency. The customer's need should be in a consistent way. If he himself is confused, then obviously the manager will also be confused with what he needs. His needs will be in a confused manner. The next one is redundancy. Redundancy is duplication. The customer actually wanted it in a tire shape, but the manager had created it in another way with 3 tire-like things. So that is actually a form of duplication, right? So that omission, and that whatever we have created should not be omitted actually. We have to continue. That is what has happened. To find and evaluate appropriate activities to reaching process goals. So we have to find and we have to evaluate what are the
as I told you, proceeding with those stages of that particular project, you have 5 different stages, in which the first stage will be communication. Communication will have 2 categories named as project initiation and requirements of that project, which will be gathered later. And the second one is planning, which will give you the scheduling. For example, when you take a task, as my friend said, when you take a phone model, I mean to remodel that phone, you will have different schedules to complete the parts of that particular phone. So, and the third step is modeling, which will have the analysis and design. They'll analyze it thoroughly and then they'll start designing it. And construction will have the code and test, which will be gathered totally and then given to the customer, who will take care of the testing and all. And deployment is nothing but the delivery. The manager is going to deliver the customer this requirement or this needs what they want in that particular model.
Okay. Now to see the first phase is communication. In communication, it is between the customer and the one who is going to satisfy his needs. Maybe we can call him a manager. Now the customer can give the manager either a problem or his requirements. If the customer is going to give the manager his problems, the manager must analyze the problems, initiate the project and find his requirements. Or the customer can directly give his requirements and the manager can start gathering all the requirements and communicate to the customer effectively to do the project. Okay, let us take an analogy now. So we are going to do a skit, and in this skit, Srinath will be the customer and Shiva will be the manager. And now let's see how they are going to do the skit.
Hello sir, may I come in? Hi. So I'm actually brother. I need our phone is there. I will tell sir. I need our phone is there. I will say you are please come in the one. Better than that. You are not from the one. In the specification level, no? Criteria for the better than that. நீங்க கரெக்ட்டா சொன்னீங்கன்னா நாங்க டிசைன் பண்றதுக்கு நீங்க OS குள்ள வந்து புதுசா இந்த OS நம்ம RAM ஸ்பீட் கொஞ்சம் அதிகமா வேணும் இன்டர்னல் மெமரி நம்ம கேமரா கிளாரிட்டி எல்லாம் மேக்ஸிமம் மேல பிக்சல் எத்தனை 50 30 அப்படி ஃப்ரண்ட் கேமரா ஃப்ரண்ட் வந்து 5 நீங்க சோல்வ் பண்ணிட்டா நீங்க இன்னொரு நாள் வாங்க நம்ம டிசைன் பண்ணி வச்சிருக்கோம் இதோட ரெக்கார்ட்ஸ் நான் வச்சிருக்கோம் அப்ப நீங்க ஓகே பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா நம்ம அப்படி நீங்க பாக்க tomorrow 9:30 later okay
Okay, now is the customer is asking the manager to prepare a mobile for him, that is a mobile which is better than the one which he is at. Okay, now the second phase, which is the planning phase. In the planning phase, the manager along with all his staffs plan, schedule and track the way in which he is going to make the product. All the other phases schedule is done in this stage, and also he can estimate what is going to be the overall thing throughout the phases. Now we will see what the manager Shiva and his staff Shruti and how are they going to schedule what the other phases are going to have for us.
Hello sir. Hi. என்னோட ஸ்டாஃப் சுத்தி
Yes sir.
அந்த இதை நீங்க சொன்ன ஸ்பெசிஃபிகேஷன்லாம் நாங்கள் பண்ணியிருக்கோம் சார் உங்களுக்கு ஓகேன்னு சொன்னீங்கன்னா ப்ரொசீட் பண்ண பார்க்குறோம் இதில் ஓஎஸ் இருக்குதுன்னா அது ஓஎஸ் வந்து நம்ம இங்கே கிடைக்கிறது ஒரு 1 வீக் ஆகும் சார் அப்புறம் இந்த கிளாரிட்டி நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி 30 மெகாபிக்சல் ஃப்ரண்ட் வந்து 5 மெகாபிக்சல் இதெல்லாம் நீங்கள் ஓகே நீங்கள் ஒரு ஃபைனலைஸ் பண்ணிங்கன்னா நம்ம ப்ரொசீட் பண்ணிடலாம் ரேம் அதெல்லாம் நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி எல்லாமே கரெக்டாக இருக்குது சார் இதை வந்து செக் பண்ணிக்கலாம் இதோட காஸ்ட் வந்து ஒரு நீங்கள் சொன்ன ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் வாங்கினா 50,000 ஆகும் பண்ணிடலாமா ஃபைனலைஸ் பண்ணிடலாமா நம்ம கோச்சிங் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிடறோம் நீங்கள் அடுத்த வாரம் உங்களுக்கு நாங்கள் டிசைன் பண்ணி காமிக்கிறோம் அதில் என்ன ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ்னால் அப்போ அந்த பேக்கெல்லாம் பண்ணி வச்சுருக்கோம் சார்
Now we'll see what the manager and this analyst have to do.
May I come in, sir?
Sir,
Sir, this is the schedule and the blueprint of this particular model.
இந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட் ஆஃப் கஸ்டமர் ஆர்டர் நம்பர் சொன்னதா?
Yes.
பண்ணியாச்சா எல்லாம் பண்ணியாச்சா?
என்ன correct.
அவர் சொன்ன அந்த ஸ்ட்ரீட் எல்லாமே கரெக்டாக இருக்கு.
Check பண்ணு.
சரி அப்போ நம்ம இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணலாம். அவர் வர சொல்லியிருக்காங்க நாளைக்கு வந்தோடனே நம்ம பண்ணிக்கலாம்.
Okay, now blueprint has been ready for the plan and the blueprint verify பண்ணி they have think thought it is perfect. And now they are going to analyze the blueprint and make the model. And the model அவங்க பண்ணி அந்த model test பண்ண போறாங்க. Both analysis and testing both together forms the construction phase. The construction phase la வந்து the model which they have got ready is going to be done. அத பண்ணி டெஸ்ட் பண்றதுக்கு there are many phases of testing. So let us see how they are constructing and how they are testing in the construction phase.
Hi sir. Hi sir. ரொம்ப நாள் ஆச்சு பாருங்க. ஃபோன் ரெடி ஆச்சா? ரெடி ஆச்சு. சுத்தி. மொபைல். இதா சார் மொபைல். உங்க ஷர்ட் கலர்லயே இருக்கு. அந்த வாட்டர் பாட்டில் எடுத்துக்கோங்க. உங்களுக்கு சுத்தி. நீங்க வாட்டர் ப்ரூஃப்னு ஒரு ஆப்ஷனே சொல்லலாம். ஆனால் எங்க கம்பெனியில் அது பண்ணுறீங்க சார்.
Okay, இப்போ வந்து final stage of development they have showed us. Development என்ன பண்ணிருக்காங்க அந்த product they have delivered it to the customer. So deployment அப்போ வந்து the product which is tested is given to the customer testing all its needs. So deployment is the last stage. Deployment you can also include the maintenance. Maintenance வந்து மூணு type you can have maintenance. First one will be the corrective maintenance. Corrective maintenance என்ன பண்றோம்னா there might be a lot of errors which we did not see while we were implementing it. Implementation அப்போ நமக்கு எல்லாம் கரெக்ட்டா தான் தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். ஆனா அது டெஸ்ட் பண்ணவே பண்ண முடியல. But later customer கிட்ட கொண்டு போய் யூஸ் பண்றப்ப he has found some fault with it. அப்போ it comes under corrective maintenance. ரெண்டாவது type of maintenance is perfection maintenance. Perfection maintenance ல வந்து it is like we can improve what we have already put. இப்போ the camera வந்து நம்ம மொபைல்ல take he has put 2 megapixel camera, but he can even further enhance this to 4 megapixel camera, which is an development. And now third one will be the adaptive maintenance. Adaptive maintenance na நம்ம பண்ண அந்த ப்ராடக்ட் எல்லா வகையான என்விரான்மென்ட்லயும் அடாப்ட் பண்ணோம். Take we have created a software which works in Windows XP, but we can develop that product to work in the present day Windows 7 or Windows 8. That is called adaptive maintenance. Okay, இவ்வளவுலாம் இருக்கு. ஆனா கண்டிப்பா எல்லாத்துலயும் வந்து nothing is perfect. எல்லாத்துலயும் சில imperfections இருக்கும். So now let us hear Shruti to say the limitations.
Sir, hi sir. The sir phone would be in என்னாச்சு சார்? சார்ஜே நிக்குது. எவ்வளவு நாள் நிக்குது? 6 நாள் நிக்குது. என்ன நாள் நிக்குது சார்? எல்லாத்தையும் சொல்றேன். இல்ல சார், ஆண்ட்ராய்டு மொபைல்ல ஒன்லி பார்த்தா 5 hours to 6 hours தான். அது யாரா சார் போட்டு வாங்கிட்டே இருக்கு. இல்ல நிறைய நாட்கள் நம்ம ப்ராசஸ்ல ஒரே
let us see the limitations of waterfall model and compare it with the advantages of incremental model.
So, main thing is the difficulty of accommodating change, which means that when you go for the requirement phase and you shift it to the design phase when all the requirements are done, and after that particular customer is asking for you for another change, you can't change it. It is very difficult to accommodate into that particular design phase, and that's what it is. And one phase has to be completed before it jumps on to another phase.
Alright, but in the incremental process model, there is something like after each and every phase of development, we can give a verification to the customer as to know whether it was his need, whether we can know whether his needs were satisfied properly. So this is a very, very good advantage of an incremental model.
And if this project wholly completes the partitioning of all the steps which comes under that project. So when integration is very difficult part at the end when you finish this result. And there's also another limitation which says that the partitioning in which you do in one particular project has different distinct stages in which the changes implementing in that particular change is very difficult.
Now, the incremental model uses divide and conquer method for breaking down the tasks. So, through this, we will know that each and every step is completed completely and the cost does not exceed as much as it does in the waterfall model.
Incremental model is that it combines the features of waterfall model in an iterative manner, that is in a sequence manner. In a sequence manner, then it releases at each step it releases a product which is called as increment, and the customer can the first increment will have the basic ideas of the client, and we can add more requirements, features if we wanted to add to the next increment. So it goes by step. In the first step it has only the basic ideas. In the second step it has the basic idea plus the supplementary features. In the third step it goes on incrementing that you can add your ideas more and more step-by-step manner. Then the advantages of increment model is that your initial product delivery is easier. That is, when you go for to buy a bulk of sweets, you can ask for a sample. If you like laddu, then you can ask for a sample. If you taste it and you can tell in the pack of bulk of laddu is okay. இப்போ உங்களுக்கு laddu பிடிக்கலனா நீங்க அடுத்து வந்து வேற ஸ்வீட் போலாம். அந்த ஸ்வீட்டும் பிடிக்கலனா so the initial product you get will be easier. And the workload is less, and the initial product you can add more features to the initial product. The disadvantages is that the initial product will be lesser, and the final product will be of more cost, and it requires good analysis for each increment steps. Thank you.
So friends, I hope you understood the process model and in that waterfall model and incremental model. So can I have anyone's feedback here? Good afternoon friends. So I am here to give a feedback on this. I'm Srishti from second year IT of Saveetha Engineering College.
I'm Shruti, second year from Saveetha Engineering College.
I'm Aishwarya, doing second year IT at Saveetha Engineering College.
I'm Mishra Bharati, doing second year IT in Saveetha Engineering College.
I'm Shiva, second year IT, and the manager of IT. I'm Shinna, second year Saveetha Engineering College, customer.